Good morning, everyone. It is November 17th, 2020. We will call the Wright County Board of Commissioners meeting to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Welcome, everyone. We have two commissioner-elects in the House, as well as new employee and other employees. And joining us remotely, we have two commissioners and our county administrator, along with some others. So welcome, everyone. So we will look at the minutes. Is there anything that anyone would like to change or correct or add to the minutes?
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from the November 3rd County Board meeting.
All right, motion made by Commissioner Vetch. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Potter. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote. Commissioner Delyden.
He's got to learn to unmute.
We'll start with Commissioner Burrell. Are we muted, Frank? Okay.
Aye. Sorry.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Mark. Commissioner Burrell? He's no longer? Okay.
Okay.
Aye.
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 Okay. Minutes are approved for, 0. All right. The agenda for today, is there? Okay, Charlie?
Yeah,
Commissioner Burrell?
I got bumped off
Okay.
a little bit, but I'm back now.
We just took a vote on the minutes. Do you approve the minutes? Aye?
Yes,
Are you in favor of
I'll vote aye.
Okay, so we'll make that correction. There's 5-0. All right. Today's agenda.
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion to approve today's agenda as presented.
All right. Motion made by Commissioner Vetch. Is there a second to approve the minute, or excuse me, the agenda?
Burrell will second.
All right. All right. Second by Commissioner Burrell. Discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote. Commissioner Burrell?
Burrell votes aye.
Commissioner Delyden?
Aye.
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 Okay, the agenda is approved. Consent agenda. Would anyone like anything removed for further discussion?
Madam Chair, I make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
All right, motion made by Commissioner Potter. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Commissioner Vetch.
Madam Chair, just with one quick note, I won't pull it off, but just a note that it was nice to see that a large number of the CARES funds expenses have come through. As you can see, the long list there. So
Yes.
Yes.
I know.
It's been a long wait to see when all those would finally come through. So
It is. It's really, I was happy to see that also, and I've lost track almost of it. I have to put some kind of a chart together.
I guess I wasn't expecting everybody to wait till the 1 yard line to push it all through.
But yeah, it's happening, so.
And Madam Chair,
Commissioner Potter.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The shout out to the Bob's office up there, the Cloak and Dagger for all the hard work, and
Oh, boy.
Julian Foss. Just for you that don't know, Cloak and Dagger was a term coined by Commissioner Vetch on the two. It was kind of funny, but funny at the time, but they've been working very hard
Yes.
to get this taken care of, and I appreciate all their work, and I'm sure the rest of them do too.
Yeah, and the committee, thank you for vetting out all the applications that we had, and yes.
Yeah, Cloak and Dagger was not nefarious.
Yeah.
All right. So hearing no more discussion, we'll vote on the consent agenda. Commissioner Burrell?
Burrell votes aye.
Commissioner
Aye.
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 Okay, consent agenda is approved. Moving on to the timed items and Mr. Matthew Fomby, and we've got exciting news. We have a new employee, so
Madam Chairwoman, members of the board, I'd just like to introduce Mr. Tu Fa, who's our new security specialist. He has already, headfirst into the security realm. We're actually going to run right after this to, we just did a massive security assessment, so we're going to get the results of that and hopefully start patching things left and right. Interesting thing, background of Mr. Faw used to work for the government. And one of the reasons we hired him was when we asked for a real life example of having found a security flaw. He had been working on a piece of equipment, found some odd traffic, went to the piece of equipment, found another government entity had plugged into their equipment and was pirating their bandwidth, and he solved that. So that's the type of thing we're looking for, is when people go cloak and dagger, we have our own James Bond to solve the problem.
Yay. Well, yeah, welcome aboard. Would you like to say anything, or?
Sure, I mean, just want to thank
You want to step up to the podium, so.
Sure.
Yep.
Just want to thank you guys for giving me the opportunity to be here to service Wright County. I'm excited to be here, and I know I've worked with a few individuals really in this room, so I look forward to continue my work here and hopefully better serve our taxpayer as well as Wright County as a whole.
Really appreciate you being here. Thank you.
Welcome.
Madam Chair? Madam Chair?
Yes, Commissioner DeLatte.
Yeah, just two things. I do want to welcome to the Wright County. I mean, he's finally doing the right thing. And just to make sure he continues to do the right thing, keep an eye on Fomby too, just to make sure that he's not doing things, These government people that used to work there, you never know.
Madam Chair, I think we should send Fomby some, phishing emails, and he'll probably be the first one to probably click on them too. So he's going to be the first one to need the additional training.
Oh my. Well, thank you for being here. Thank you for introducing him. All right. And next, Mr. Bill Stevens from Planning and Zoning. So this was, really comprehensive. My gosh, talk about demographic information and amazing. So.
It was, excuse me, Madam Chair, Commissioners,
Oh.
it wasn't all my doing. We hired a consultant, if you remember correctly, to help
Right.
us with this here, because we realized right up front, this was going to be a larger project than in-house staff could probably do on our own here.
I thought you and Greg wrote it out.
Well,
It was-
Ghostwriter, yeah, we're a ghostwriter.
Yeah, ghostwriters.
But, we present the final version of the solid waste management plan to the county board for adoption here. It does cover, as you state, pretty much everything related to solid waste, recycling, household hazardous waste within Wright County, both from a residential and commercial sources there. It's something that took quite a while to take care of here. We went through several MPCA staff, not at their own fault. They have some issues with staffing also, and one of the individuals unfortunately passed as we were in the middle of doing this, so it kind of delayed things a little bit. But we think we've covered everything we need. It's a 10-year plan. We will start looking at revising it, I should say, in about 7.5 or 8 years is when we start to do that. And once again, it'll be probably a couple-year process to do so. But I bring it before the board here to ask for their adoption of the plan. We will then submit it to the MPCA, who will then draft the findings of fact, and make final approval. And this is after a 30-day public comment period that wrapped up on November 9th of this year. So we tried to do a quick turnaround so that we can get all the paperwork done and get the funds in during this calendar year.
Yeah, I said I was really impressed with this, the depth of it, and so thank you. I know that you've been working on it for a long time, and it paid off.
Yeah, and it wasn't just myself, I should say.
Right.
We've had other
your
people
team,
working on this too.
your
Yes.
team worked on it.
That's
So.
correct.
All right.
And, Madam Chair.
So, Commissioner Potter.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Bill, thank you for that, 248 pages long of all that's fun. Another 100 pages you'd have been right there. You could have put it into a novel form. Again, it goes in quite detail on a lot of things. It's a lot of reading, so if Commissioner-elects, if you need cataract surgery or something, I'd suggest doing it really quick before the first of the year, because some of these things come up and they're a lot of reading. They'll keep you up at night.
Yeah.
But it's good. It's good detail. It's good for the county to know those people. We care here. We're doing it the right way.
Yeah, Madam Chair, Commissioner Potter, it's something that even though we have this document to go, it'll be an evolving document, so to speak. You know, we'll be getting new ideas, new methods of dealing with some of these issues here that'll be incorporated into the next version down the line here.
Yep.
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Vetch?
you know, I mean, I'd be interested to see what the numbers for 18, 19, and 20 look like for the recycling percentage collection versus MSW. But it's interesting when you look at the numbers because the MSW has increased very, very slightly, which obviously with population growth is going to increase. But really the repurposed and recycled goods.
Oh, my goodness.
It has, I mean, the majority of the growth is in garbage is mostly in repurposed and recycled goods. Very little of it is actually into the MSW when you take the population growth over the years.
And Madam Chair, Commissioner, excuse me, Svetch. Those numbers that you're looking at there don't include all of the commercial, industrial waste either. So those percentages, they look like they're a little skewed to the south there, a little low there. But once we incorporate the commercial and industrial waste tonnages also, those numbers are going to increase dramatically on their own.
I know, I keep thinking that they could pick up our garbage every other week and our recycling every week instead of the other way around, because we always, we have way more recycling than we do.
Ultimately, that would be the goal for everyone. Yes.
Yep, so that might eventually change, that
We'll
we
keep
need to do it,
working on it.
we need to get them collected weekly, so. All right, so Board, we have a resolution before us to accept the Wright County Solid Waste Plan. Commissioner
Madam
Dryden?
Chair,
Yes, Commissioner Dryden.
I got one quick question. Bill, did I understand you to say that the public comment period closed on the 9th?
November 9th, that's correct, Commissioner Dryden.
Did we have any public comments at all?
I'm sorry, I did not address that. No, the MPCA or neither Wright County nor the MPCA received any comments addressing the solid waste management plan.
Okay, thank you. And regarding your comment, Commissioner Hewsome, my wife and I end up having to increase the size of our recycling container. We got a couple of choices in the St. Michael area for size-wise.
Yep.
So we downsized our garbage, increased our recycling container. So, yeah, if everybody did their part, it would be a good thing.
I think we've got the biggest receptacle there is right now for recycling, but yeah, we probably could downsize the garbage side, but yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I'll make a motion to approve the resolution.
all right, motion made by Commissioner Delyden. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Commissioner Vetch,
With
and you
one
have a
other
comment?
One thing that I thought was also interesting is that, I mean, majority of the things that are recycled in there is paper, obviously being the largest one, which is easy to utilize. Plastic, which is one of the challenging areas, which is happy to see that Wright County has not, as some areas in the nation are having a difficult time finding places to utilize their leftover plastic. We're not in that challenge at this point. Hopefully that won't ever be a challenge for us, but it is.
Commissioner Vetch, we've been fortunate. Our staff out at the recycling facility, Craig Mueller and Steve Waddell, have done an excellent job in finding markets for our materials that we do have to get out there. We are also fortunate that if we get into a downtrend of the market, we have storage space available that we can hold the stuff until the markets start to increase, and then we can get back into them there. So they've done a
Definitely an
very good
advantage.
job also.
Yep, that's a great advantage. All right, any other, Commissioner Potter?
One more. We have storage space if we get rid of that Zook.
We'll work on that.
We still got that? No.
And, Madam Chair, Mary, I'm gonna leave the Zook for you. You gotta go out and see that monster. He's goofy. But that'd be a lot of space, because that takes up, we got storage. That's the beauty of that. We paid all that money for that facility,
Yep,
so we might as well keep it, and we can
Yep.
use it for other purposes now.
definitely. We'll keep expanding, I'm sure. All right, and if there's no other comments, roll call vote, Commissioner Burrell.
Burrell votes aye.
Commissioner Delyden.
Aye.
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 Resolution passes 5-0. Thanks so much, Bill, for
Board. Thank you, Bill.
everything you're doing, and I know it was good to see that hours added and things, and people had all this time, and they were going through all their stuff and need to get rid of it, so
Again, our staff.
they appreciated that you opened open the hours,
Our
expanded
staff
the
at the
hours.
site have been very agreeable to work with all of this.
Yeah, yeah. Good. All right, so Mr. Matt Detchen, you are up next.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board.
Morning.
Morning. First item I have is the approval for the minutes from the public hearing on the petition for removal of property from County Ditch 10 from Peaceful Medals Llc under Minnesota Statute 103E. It was submitted by Clint Fall, who was the owner of the LLC.
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from the public hearing on the petition to remove property from County Ditch 10 on October 19th.
All right, thank you. Motion made by Commissioner Vetch. Is there a second?
Second.
I'll second it.
Okay.
Seconded by Commissioner Delyden. Any discussion on that? Hearing none, all in favor?
Roll call.
Oh, I'm sorry. Every once in a while I slip. Commissioner Burrell,
Burrell votes aye.
Commissioner Delyden.
Aye.
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 All right, the minutes are approved. And then number 2.
Yep, approval for the minutes from the public hearing for property not assessed benefits under Minnesota Statute 103E.
All right. Everyone has from,
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from the public hearing for property not assessed benefits under Minnesota Statute 103E.741 for County Ditch 10.
and those were on October 20th.
Yep.
So, all right, motion made.
October 19th.
Burrell votes aye.
Burrell votes aye.
Oh,
Got a
I
second?
got mixed up. Burrell, you made the motion,
I
Commissioner.
made the motion.
And Hebert seconded?
Yes.
Yeah, Chris, I seconded it.
Okay, thank you. All right, is there any discussion on the minutes? Actually, all right.
Yep.
Hearing none, roll call vote, Commissioner Burrell,
Burrell votes aye.
Commissioner Delyden.
Aye.
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 All right, the minutes are approved. All right, now the 20th.
Yeah, item number 3, approval of the minutes from the public hearing on the repair report for County Ditch number 10 under Minnesota Statute 103E held on the 20th.
All right. Everyone has,
I'll make a motion to approve it.
all right, motion made by Commissioner Delyden. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Potter. Any discussion on the minutes? Hearing none, roll call vote, Commissioner Burrell.
Burrell votes aye.
Commissioner Delyden.
Aye.
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 All right. The minutes are approved. And then number 4, the resolution.
Yeah, the number 4 item is a resolution to approve the findings and order accepting the withdrawal of the petition to remove property from County Ditch number 10.
All right. Is there a motion?
So moved.
I'll second it.
All right. Motion made by Commissioner Potter, seconded by Commissioner Vetch. Any discussion? All right. Hearing none, roll call vote, Commissioner Burrell.
Burrell votes aye.
All right.
Aye.
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 All right. The resolution passes 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so, thanks, Matt, for everything. Moving on.
No problem.
Moving on to items for consideration, the Committee of the Whole. Commissioner Potter.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The Committee of the Whole met on November 3rd. The commissioners were present there, and along with the numerous other people, which you'll be able to find on the site if you want to get to it. The first item of discussion was the Bertram Chain Lake Park Nature School. Mattice came in 2019. They were approached by Monticello, a partner, to develop a nature-based preschool at the Bertram Chain Lake Regional Park. Citing success of the program led expansion for the school year. Monticello's been very proactive in offering different education style and currently has pre-K through 5 in nature-based education at Bertram. Basically cutting to the chase here, they're looking to see if they could build a building and put a school out there. The building in that particular location was part of the master plan, And it would, the construction would be larger, large enough to host wedding and large gatherings, which you can't do that now. Building education, private partnership, the superintendent, Eric Olson, said the nature-based began 2 years ago as a preschool program and expanded. Seem to think there's a good amount of people liking that now. And he said that the number of students were from 140 to 300. Yeah, that's what the expansion capabilities would look at. So he entered into a lease agreement for building in the park. Well, the partnership would be a win-win for both county and the MSD, which has been on the Monticello School District. Since the county intends a building a facility and have a lease agreement in place, could advance assist and defray initial costs. And that's their, again, it's one of those things with Bircham Lake Park. It's a very complicated situation out there with how we're doing things. There's many nature preschools in the state, but very few pre-K. And the lease agreement can be very complex, as we found out from attorneys and what have you. You know, and to do with the private-public partnership on the, there was, it has some positivities to it, but it's also, like say, it's got some other issues. You forget to find a funding mechanism so the county wouldn't have to put out for bonds for the project, because that was a non-starter for this group at this point in time. Commissioner Vetch said that if for some reason if Monticello experienced insolvency, Bradbury STEM would own the building on the county property. That's another rub.
Yeah.
That's a little tough to, how do we square that up with everything? And Commissioner Hewson agreed that the idea of the nature-based learning, our concern is the county private entity owns the building and county leasing it to them. That creates a kind of a three-way financing agreement, to which this can be sticky. It's one thing if it's all private, but once there's a public entity into it, it complicates it quite a bit. Commissioner Vetch said if the county was to lease the building with investments funds, it could yield a potential 5% interest, twice what it typically yields on a $4 million project. But the Heather Lemieux, the finance director, concerned with the third party in the middle of the agreement, potential legal implications, which again, we're back to that legal implications again. And I asked if the project was exclusive to Monticello, because I could envision other school districts seeing this as favoritism towards that, and not all schools, because it's up there. Granted, it's located close, but some schools will say, you gave it to them, why not give it to me, kind of thing. So the was not enough information for to know if that was going to materialize that way or not. The purpose of coming to the board was to see if the commissioners are in favor of the concept before fleshing out the details. And if there's no interest from the board, there would be a waste of time digging any further. Said the only other school districts with parks in the park system to handle similar requests, Maple Lake, Dassel, Cato, because of their proximity to Ney Park and Collingwood, respectively. They've had conversations in preceding settings, but without a program like this, school districts are going to have a difficult time retaining students. And Commissioner Vetch said with a deeper discussion with the stakeholders needs to get more clarity on the cost-benefit analysis, which we all concurred that was the case here, that made sense. Again, the recreation master plan facility being proposed in the master plan of the Bircham Lake Park. How does this fit in? Does it match what we're doing here? And ultimately, Commissioner Hewson said the county should own the building. If we're going to do this, we're going to own the building. The cleanest, simplest, fastest way to get the project completed is to have the county finance the building through a lease levy back to the city. Again, that's right now it's a little bit of a rub on that one. He said before, Heather Lemieux said before the county gets too far in the project, we need to look at the financials because the county is already carrying debt service and the NLC needs to be done, which is true. And we said bonding was not an option at this point in time. And with Heather Lemieux come up with the financial pros and cons, I think that's they're going to keep going. The recommendation was to meet in a small group and further discuss the issue. So the recommendation was a scheduled Microsoft Teams meeting for November 10th to discuss the proposal to construct the park. Commissioner Vetch and Delyden, County Attorney Asselson, Sean Riley from the Planning and Zoning, along with Brad Harrington from the Park and Recreation Director, Heather Lemieux, and two representatives from Monticello and Bradbury STEM. So that was it there, and we'll have a later update on that, what transpired out of that. Next one was CARES Act funding update. Heather Lemieux, excuse me, Finance Director, provided an update on the status of the care funds silos. School districts were allotted $4.29 million, and just 34,155 remains. And 33,994 of that has come from the Dassel-Cokato School District and the affiliates. Funding silos, despite the allocation of more than $511,000 into a small business grant program out of the affiliates portion, there remains $510,000 that is eligible to be reallocated back to the county. Summary of the count: the townships allocations from the CARES Act were $181,256.68 remains to be reallocated. Small business grant program has received 48 of more than 200 grants to be made through the initial process. Of those, 24 have been completed and are eligible for $393,000 in CARES Act funding. She had that the full allocation of $2,565,221 is expected to be expended if all the businesses meet the eligibility requirements. There are some that weren't quite complete with their applications and they're working through the process. The allocation retained by Wright County is $8,031,676, and the allocation that was an allocation of $4 million, $4,711,877.52 has been expended, leaving a balance of $3,319,798,398.48. Outstanding items include the purchase of computers, health and human service purchases that have yet to be invoiced, and salaries of Sheriff's Department and Public Health. Total does not include all the funds that have go turned back to the remainder of the funding silos. It was a consensus of the board that there is more than enough money, eligible county expense to cover the remainder sub-accounts, and this is just information only. And Madam Chair, with that, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes and the recommendation that came out of the first item.
Madam Chair, I'm going to second that with just one point of clarification.
All right. Yes, Commissioner Vetch.
So after a little bit of discussion, which more of this will come at another meeting, but the public-private agreement, so if, for whatever reason, if the school district became insolvent, we would be we're almost like a co-signer on it. So Bradbury Strand wouldn't own the building, but we would be forced to purchase out the building at the agreed amount. Unfortunately, in that public-private agreement, literally we'd be paying for that building twice over in about a 10-year period of time. So it's not a very attractive funding source. There's also a lot of other concerns that I was glad that we had to sit down and have that discussion. I won't get too deep into it because we'll be bringing forward that discussion at a future meeting when we bring all that information back. But definitely glad that we put the pause button on it and they were able to have some good deep discussion on it. So
yeah, it's, I mean, yes, I think all of us like the concept of the nature schools. It's just, we've got to be clean about the way we do this and the way we go about this. So, yeah.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Potter.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This situation was not like the comparison to the Trailblazer Transit Building. That was a defeasance bond that we took over, and all the money that we pay out comes back to us from MnDOT. So that's no levy dollars costing us. There's been misconception out there that we're just paying it. No, it's MnDOT pays that through the transit thing, and it comes back at us. This is not like that at all. This is a completely different animal, and I'm glad Commissioner Vetch did take the time and go through this and see pros, cons, because as you know, the county has gotten in a couple things in the past, the compost facility being one. Bet on things. Another thing they got into is that sewer subordinate district that had some kind of funny, fuzzy math to it. You got to flesh out. It's better to be on the front end of this to get all the questions answered than come in afterwards and trying to fix the mess.
Yeah, thank you.
I do applaud what you did there and this discussion that happened. So now everybody knows where we're stand on this.
Yep. Thank you. Do you have any comments or questions, Commissioner Burrell or Commissioner Leiden?
Madam Chair, no, I don't have any additional comments, other than, as Commissioner Vetch said, that we'll be coming back with some additional information here in the future.
Yep, sounds good. Thank you. All right. If there's no more discussion, roll call vote. Commissioner Burrell.
Burrell, all aye.
Commissioner Leiden.
Aye.
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 All right. The minutes and the recommendations are approved. And the next set of minutes from our workshop, Commissioner Vetch.
Okay, so last week on Tuesday, the county board met for a workshop to discuss a variety of items. As usual, we scheduled meetings as necessary. I won't kind of get into the details of that, but they're all posted meetings for a variety of different subjects. The second item that we took on in our workshop was the contract for Flaherty and Hood. For the past 2 years, we've used them for their services to help us navigate issues in St. Paul. They've done a fantastic job. We looked at talking about what we've recapped this last year, which they were able to do a lot of great work with us with DVS, Driver Vehicle Services. They did a fantastic job on working with the bonding and being able to bring that forward with us and be able to get that dental center, that $1.4 million project that'll be able to go forward. They also worked with us on a variety of other ditch issues, and we also then discussed the scope of their contract going forward and what things that we'd like to work on. There's discussion about everything from elections or to other projects, and one of the big things that we still want to push hard on is our driver vehicle services and trying to figure out how we can maintain testing here in Buffalo. But we left the contract broad so that we can add things to it or needs as we come forward in the next year, because sometimes we just don't know until a bill's proposed that it's going to largely affect us, that we have to go to work really hard in St. Paul. So
Yep.
the recommendation was to forward a contract proposal from Flaherty and Hood to represent the county's interest in the advancement of the community dental project in the November 2020 county board agenda, and then to forward a contract proposal from Flaherty and Hood to represent county's interest in lobbying services for the Minnesota legislative session of 2021. I forgot to notice the other part of it was to contract with Flaherty and Hood to work with MMB and being able to get the funds forwarded back to us so we can get that project moving forward, because there is a lot of legal I's and T's that need to be crossed to be able to make that happen. And it looks like Susan over here gets to be the lucky one to work with that one.
I'm actually looking forward to it.
That's facetious, right? The second item on the agenda was the Crossroads Animal Shelter dangerous dogs contract. Their previous contracts in the past had them operating in the red. They brought forward a contract that is more representative of the cost, their true cost to operate such services. It was a discussion of whether the board would like to go with more of an hourly rate or a flat fee. The past numbers are so hard because they ebb and flow from year to year. For budgeting purposes, for the first year out, we chose to go with the flat fee side of it. Basically, we can then review it to see how that kind of plays out. But I think for a starting point, to going with the flat fee of the $33,000, but then being able to get the accounting of the actual hours that we were utilized, and then kind of do some reconciliation on what makes sense in further years. So the recommendation was to continue to contract with Crossroads Animal Shelter for dangerous dog services and to enter into a 1-year flat rate contract in the amount of $33,000 for the calendar year of 2021. The fourth item was the CARES Act funding update. We still kind of went through the update with the small business loans to that. As of last Tuesday, they had expensed 1.3 million of the 2.5 allocations for the small businesses. That number has grown since then. It's kind of a fluid number as of this agenda. I think we're getting close to the majority of them getting through. We also discussed about the Wright County Community Action cap of $200,000 for their expenses. I don't know at this point if they've gotten it all in, but I think they were getting pretty close to most of all their $200,000 that was allotted to them. Then there's some discussions about the contract and some of the things that needed to be ironed out in terms of information and making sure that everything was good between the county and the Wright County Economic Development Partnership, and it looks like everything was accomplished. We want to thank our finance department for their diligence and patience in working through that challenge. The fifth topic was the meeting with legislators, which will be tomorrow afternoon, and putting together a list of things that we would like to go to work work with them on improving the business operations and quality of life here in Wright County. Once again, one of our top ones was driver vehicle services and wanting to be able to maintain that and be able to make improvements to that in the next sessions. Also, the topic of health and human services and working with health and human services to find what is the biggest challenge with them and bring that forward. Another one that we really felt needs to be looked at is in the challenge of this past election was elections and working much harder with the legislator in looking at the lessons learned from this last election and changes that maybe needed to be made so that we can make the system much smoother. So that was another one. And then another one that has always been a big peak of interest in our area is aquatic invasive species, especially because in this past calendar year, a great number of lakes have acquired these, I don't know what you call them, pests that really
don't work.
So that we are now, that's another topic that we want. So tomorrow afternoon, we're going to bring some information forward to the legislators and have some good discussions on possible solutions and see what we can do from there.
Yep.
That was informational only. The sixth item was the Wright County Economic Development Partnership Authority update, or the Wright County Economic Development Authority and not the EDP. So, this is the update from the advisory group that was created to create a EDA in Wright County. So with this was made up of a variety of city, township, and citizens at large into this group to come forward with a recommendation and a scope for Wright County if we would like to move forward in creating an economic development authority. So it was a good discussion and talking about what the size of this EDA would be and what some of the scopes would be. The biggest item that was scoped out was obviously the need for the county to be able to liquidate property in a efficient manner, and so that would be one of the number one scopes. One of the other scopes was the ability to partner with our local municipalities and townships in prospects that they deem necessary, not us as a county. The other third item was to be able to have access to state and federal funds that without a regional economic development authority, it would be very challenging and difficult to have access to those funds. So that was kind of the three piece. It was also noted that there was no interest from the county board to give this EDA any taxing authority. So the recommendation was to draft up a resolution for the establishment of a Wright County Economic Development Authority and place the resolution on November 24th County Board agenda. So with that, Madam Chair, I will approve the minutes and the recommendations, and I will make just a brief comment regarding the Economic Development Authority.
All right.
After a second.
Okay, motion made by Commissioner Besch. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Potter, and you had a comment, Commissioner.
So
Besch.
I want the general public to understand that we didn't jump into the Economic Development Authority aspect real lightly. I mean, this goes back to discussions almost, I think it was probably almost 2 years ago, and really trying to, when we went into these buildings and starting to look at, that wasn't the number one precipitation, but it was a large precipitation, looking at getting the best utilization for these county properties that we have, and this was giving us a huge avenue. So that was like probably the biggest initial push. But then looking at the other abilities that all these SED grants and other things from the state and federal government, that really is hard for us. We have to end up working with entities in St. Cloud to be able to get those grants, where if we have a county EDA, we're going to have a much better chance of being able to go after those grants just more as a county versus having to go after them in a large, like 7W region. So that was another huge check in the box to wanting to move forward. And then with the Otsego project was another one that kind of gave us the aha that there is some projects in Wright County that wouldn't be able to happen if the county didn't partner with their local municipalities. So I just want to make sure that the public understood that we are not looking to create taxing authority, and we're just really just trying to make our toolbox bigger when you're offering tools that are out there that are really no expense to the taxpayers.
Right.
Madam Chair.
Yeah. Thank you, Commissioner Potter.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Commissioner Vetch, can you explain to the public again why we chose to go with Flaherty Hood in the first place? What started this whole, why we went that way?
Well,
I wanted them to, because some people have forgotten the message and why.
And a lot of this went down to because of the, if you went back to the year that we had our 17.3% levy increase, it coincided with a administrative adjustment by the Department of Revenue that was in just shy of a double-digit reduction in their tax capacity. So that really put us in the light to, we need to be involved in how that is determined and the timing in which that comes out, because that was set after we had already gone through our budgeting process and after we had already gone through our, we already set our preliminary levy. Not that we budget based on our capacity, but it is something like the state does. They look at their revenue forecast in making determinations on what they can and can't do, because obviously there's capital projects that if you would know certain things, you would potentially put on pause.
Right.
So glad that after the help with Flaherty and Hood and having meetings with the DOR commissioner, we were able to get better real-time information. And ever since the last 2 years, we've gotten, instead of getting these adjustments mid to late September, we're now getting them the first week, if not the latest second week in August, which makes a bigger impact because we have a day one going into our budgeting. So.
Well, and they are by far our largest taxpayer, so it has a huge impact if we're a big increase or decrease. Commissioner Potter.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I thank you, Commissioner Vetch, for that update, because the nuclear plant with the tax that they pay is the elephant in the room, and we need to have a seat at the table to know what they're doing, because Department of Revenue, what they did is kind of a shot out of left field to us that year, and we need to know what they're permitting and everything else going on. The other thing with Flaherty and Hood, and at first I was a little skeptical, but I've come around because they have brought value for what we're paying them to do this, and some people might not see that, but that's all these little moving parts that we have to deal with have to be addressed, and somebody's got to be there to be able to tell us how to navigate through it and have our voice heard. Like the time when they adjusted, now it comes back to August, so it's before the budget, so we got time to react to it instead of we set a preliminary budget. Oh, by the way, we're going to reduce this by 30%. That's a killer. The other thing is with economic development, Wright County was in what's called Economic Development Strategies, SEDS, 7W SEDS for a while, and then we got out of it. We got back into it about 6 years ago, 5-6 years ago. We had to go through all the reformation and all that, and that's the other tool in the toolbox you're talking about for state and federal. Okay, so that with the thing when you have a SEDS, now we have our economic development, you will score higher. If we got to count on an outside agency to do any grant funding for state or federal, our score will be much lower if we don't have an active one. So I'm happy that the EDA is moving forward to be a little bit more expansive to include how do we get these businesses, because even with greater MSP, when we were talking with them, we lacked the tools and toolbox for us to attract your Shutterfly and those kind of things. We need to step up because we're ripe for some big business like that, a major employer that has great wages. We just have to, get our act together here and do that. So I'm happy that that's moving forward.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, one thing I want to do, which is, Bob, I'm glad you're in the room because you'll attest to this, because I think without Flaherty and Hood, when we went to that state assessed property, we got an education from Flaherty and Hood on how these properties get to their dollar amount, that I think without Flaherty and Hood, I don't know that it was hours and hours of education, and because learning out their apportionment process and how they arrive at these numbers is,
yeah.
Madam Chair, Commissioner Vetch, I can attest that Flaherty Hood brought
farmer run to the table in a more English way of speaking to us.
Yeah.
Well said.
That helps.
There you go.
All right, any other comments? Hearing none, we're moving the minutes and the recommendations. Commissioner Burrell?
Burrell votes aye.
Commissioner Delyden?
Aye.
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 All right. Minutes and recommendations are approved. Moving on to administration, schedule meeting to recap the 2021 budget and discuss public meeting presentation. Lee or Sue?
Liaison.
Yeah, Madam Chair, I can dive in on that item. Really, this is to touch base, knowing we have our Truth and Taxation meeting scheduled for the evening of December 1st. I just wanted to check in with the board if you felt the need to schedule another meeting to discuss and review our budget and levy prior to that meeting. As you recall, we're set at a 5% levy this year, which was interesting. Bob shared with me this morning some information from Micah to see what everybody is around the state, and we're right in there with everybody, actually one of the lowest per capita rates in the state. So just wanted to ask the question if the board wanted an additional meeting to review prior to the Truth and Taxation meeting.
I don't know if I need to. I mean, I was happy my taxes went down, but any comments, Commissioner Burrell or Commissioner Delyden?
Madam
Commissioner
Chair, I
Vetch?
think I'll just meet with Administrator Kelly for any questions or in review of what we're going to present, but I can do that off to the side. I don't have to do it as a group, so.
Yeah. Does anyone, Commissioner Burrell or Delyden, would you like to schedule a meeting or just wait till the 1st to? Everyone?
No, I'm fine with what's going on. I think we did the best that we could, and we did nail it out during the board meeting or during the budget hearings.
Yeah, it was pretty intense. It was pretty intense session, so it's good that we did that. Commissioner Burrell, or how about you? Did you want to schedule a meeting or?
And Madam Chair, like I said, it would be no shock to anybody. I think we're right in line with a lot of the cities and different entities around in other counties. So I don't see a need for it.
Okay. All right. So it looks like we're good, Administrator Kelly.
All right, very good. Thank you.
All right, and to the 2021 legislative priorities.
Yes, moving to that item, board, I sent out late yesterday. I worked with departments and solicited information, tried to incorporate, based on the feedback from the workshop, the 4 main items that were raised as what we'd like to talk with our legislators about. So I believe Sue may have provided printed copies in front of you today. Otherwise, I can share the screen, but have written a narrative regarding the DVS testing in consultation with Shane at Flaherty and Hood. Had some discussion with Carissa and gotten some input from her regarding elections processes and funding, and it included a separate item for your consideration regarding that. Reached out to Human Services for that 3rd item, and they had selected the item regarding the waivers that have been put in place and some of the telehealth opportunities that have come through COVID, and pushing to maintain those. You'll recognize that also was in the discussion at the AMC District 5 meeting as one of the priorities for the Health and Human Services group. Lastly, I'd reached out to Soil and Water, gathered some information around the AIS funding and some of the projects that have been done, and kind of tried to demonstrate that the funding's been relatively flat, but the need increases. So with that, and then of course it included the additional items that were submitted by the departments from Human Services and from Highway. So our strategy in the past that I think has worked well is to have a focus on 3 to 5 items and open the discussion with that. So I'd be open if you want to do here or offline any changes to the document, but if all looks good, I'd like to send that out to department heads and any participants for tomorrow's meeting. So
Does it look good to everyone? Commissioner Barella, Commissioner Lyden, do you have any comments? Okay, or Commissioner Vetch or Potter? No?
That's good, Madam
No,
Chair.
good?
We're good.
All right, we're good. So thank you. So moving on to our advisory committee, advisory board updates. Commissioner Burrell, would you like, is there anything that you'd like to?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. I do have a few things today. And just so people know, I haven't been mentioning the fair so much. They don't do their meetings remote, and it's real difficult for me. My doctor would not allow me to go in. So, but we are planning on the fair for next year, the 150th, and we just hope this COVID thing gets taken care of by then. The other thing, we met yesterday with the AMC Natural Environment Resource Committee, whatever. And a couple things that I think should be brought to the board's attention. Renville County brought up an item where the DNR is attempting to add on to their public waters inventory list. And basically, they're just kind of picking away at people, because there was an article in the Minneapolis Star-Tribune, I did not read it, but I was told about it, that they're looking to add possibly up to 500 or more other waters onto their public water inventory. So we would be on that list down the road. So the committee voted unanimous to be opposed to that thing. And then the other one, I believe this was Goodhue County, but I don't remember, but it was south of the cities. There's a company that is proposing to come in and pump 500 million gallons of water from their underwater aquifer and send it by train out to the western states, Colorado and some other states. And that would be like 1.4 million gallons a day out of our aquifer. And we did vote to be against that as well. And that's it. I mean, we met with community action, but maybe Commissioner DeLayden might have better notes on that than I do. So that's all I had for right now, unless you had any questions.
Commissioner DeLayden.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, probably the biggest thing regarding Wright County Community Action is that their PPP was forgiven. So that's some additional money that they'll have available to help out with the senior meals and that sort of stuff. Just like Commissioner Burrell yesterday, the Health and Human Services Policy Committee met, and one of the biggest things that kind of has me concerned, because it's going to end up being probably costly to the counties, is parent representation for child protection cases. And there's a group from Mitchell Hamel Institute for Transformed Child Protection. Their thoughts are that currently, when we're taking away parental rights or just removing their kids from their home, the first court date, the parents normally don't have any representation. So this group is trying to get it so that that'll have to be provided from the very beginning. And they have some data to back it up, showing that when this does happen, that it will have a better outcome for the kids and the parents and everything, because that way, and I think Commissioner Vetch had mentioned one other time too, is that, and Commissioner Burrell, is that when they first go in for against these child protections or children being removed, it's a very confusing time for those parents. So this is something that they're looking at doing, and again, where that funding will come from, it's hard to say, but there could be push to the counties. So that was one of the major things. There's all sorts of other things, but that was one of the biggest things as far as I was concerned.
Commissioner Dolan, I'm very happy to hear that they're doing that, because I tell you, so many people get into that mess and they just put their hands up in the air because navigating it is too complex that they feel like they've lost the minute it happens. So that's
Right, and then I didn't want to interrupt either Commissioner Delighten, but I was going to say it's not that many cases either. So it's because a lot of these things, I was talking with our next commissioner, Mike Kaczmarek, who is a deputy, and he said 90+% of these cases are resolved before it would never even go to court. So he said that's the good thing about it, and Jamie can speak to that too. We do a good job that way, but when the people do get involved in these few cases where they do come to court, I believe you're right. I think a lot of them are just clueless as to what their rights are and anything else, the proceedings and the whole works.
Regarding all this, it was Joanna Woolman from Hamlin, and she talked about it, and it's national research that shows the high quality legal representation for parents from the initial hearing on leads to better outcomes for children and families. And these outcomes include reunifications that occur more quickly and last longer, so it's much fewer system reentries, permanencies being established for children sooner, and parents engaging in services more quickly and effectively. So, Charlie, you and I are both all for being the high-quality legal representation.
Well, yeah.
I'm sorry?
Oh, I'm sorry. I was going to say that certainly in public safety too, they've been working on more of a gentle entry, when they to bring, not just kind of go in by force and take kids, and not that it specifically happened in Wright County, but just generally speaking, that to do more of a gentle approach. And I think that this is kind of all part of that it's going to just be a beneficial long term, and it's not so traumatic for children. So, and the goal is to reunite families as much as possible.
This is something that the county could implicate on it, or provide on its own too. Again, it's something to discuss for budgets next year. I have no idea what the cost would be. I guess in a way, I always assumed that we provided attorneys for those that couldn't afford it right off the bat. But from my gathering with this information is that it's later in the process where we do help them out. So something to think about for next year's budget and try to figure out if it's something we want to do. And then I had a number of different meetings, mental health, public health, parks last week. One of the things I wanted to talk about though was in the public health, the Rivers of Hope, which they talked about their mission to provide a community coordinated response to end family violence through advocacy, education, and interagency collaboration. So they were talking about the children's emergency daycare, evening care, that sort of stuff, and how they've all been, since the other group left us, that they've been able to help pick up that
Crisis nursery.
Yeah, the crisis nursery missing what was needed for some of the foster parents and parents that just are having a hard time with, or want to even just go get to a job interview or something. So it was interesting to hear a lot of those sort of things too. So and then like I said, the parks, we had a meeting, and mental health, and you'll be hearing more about the mental health stuff in the future.
Okay.
So in the interest of time, I'll let the rest of it go.
All right, Commissioner Vetch?
So there's a lot of things I could go over.
Yeah.
Like I said, we've been doing with a lot of other little projects that'll be coming forward at different meetings, so I'll save that information. The AIS committee we met was that last week, Commissioner Houston? I think.
Yes, yeah.
Every day blurs together.
Yeah, go ahead and
So
that.
we discussed a variety of different things. The biggest item that we discussed was the budget for the next year and the allocation of the 220-some thousand for this year. I forget what it was. Ours at 236.
273,333.
Oh, that's
for
right,
next
because we had
year.
the additional 60,000.
Yep.
We had that additional 60,000. So we had the allocation of the budget, and then we also did the discussion on the Cedar Lake CD3, which is that portable unit that's out there that has brushes and air compressor and stuff to clean out boats. Surprisingly, I was surprised on the amount of utilization. It was for the investment, for the utilization, for year one, I was great. I couldn't believe the amount of people that actually picked it up and used the number one used tool was the air hose. So I have to believe it has to have a huge benefit to it. I mean, because I wonder how many people went there and used the wrench to get their boat plug out, and if that wrench wasn't there, how many of them would have just drove down the road with the plug in the boat?
Yeah.
You know, you have to ask yourself that, so you kind of wonder. Then we also discussed the porta potty contract, because before we had to put some metrics into where we put a porta potty at, what ramps and which ones we don't, because sometimes I think that we were putting a porta potty at ones where literally there was probably another one there already 100 yards away. So we kind of put some metrics to it and did some research to that. So kind of did some cost savings there because need to make it make sense. I think those are like the big topics.
And they also talked about the Starry Trek, so they go around and look at the different lakes. And Wright County had 12 volunteers that looked at 10 lakes, but over statewide it was like 212 volunteers checked 292. So that was, I mean, it's good to get some involvement and trying to cut down on the aquatic invasive species that we've got in our lakes for sure. So
Yeah, Madam Chair, did
Yeah.
you hear about over in, I think it was in Sherburne County, where there was one young man that found a couple of golden clams, I think they're called, which is an invasive species which had not been found in Minnesota during that Starry Trek. So
was that the one in Stearns County and Lake
if
Cornelia?
it's Stearns, okay, I couldn't remember. I know it started with an S.
Yeah, yeah. It's the other S county by us. Yeah, that was in Lake Cornelia. They were talking about a new find in Lake Cornelia. So, yeah, we don't need any more. For sure. So anything else, Commissioner?
You know, but a lot of the other stuff will be coming forward here
Yeah.
in the weeks to come, so I'll kind of save that, keep the suspense.
All right, so just kind of briefly, I was at the Buffalo State Schools meeting, and enrollment is down. They do have 2, but basically in the COVID cases changes daily, essentially. But they really talked about the importance of having kids in school, and unfortunately now we're moving to fewer days in school, distance learning, and so that's an issue. They also, the Phoenix Learning Center that was in the old Army or
National Guard.
Yep, National Guard spot, has moved into the high school, and it's been very successful. So they can have access to more of the programs, and they're more integrated in the high school than they were before. So just a lot of talk about what's going on with kids and truancy, and so kind of some good updates for us as community members to find out this stuff. And also I did a presentation at the public health meeting that Commissioner DeLyden was at, because I'm on the SHAC committee, State Community Health Services Advisory Committee. So after our quarterly meetings, and they like an update from the state, and I think I've talked talked about that before. And Safe Communities of Wright County, we welcomed our new executive director, Sharon Menser. So she helped conduct our first meeting, her first meeting. And we also welcomed Brian Lutz as the new county attorney in January, and also Mona Bolden from Alina Health. So they have continued to do the Wright Road and the parent-teen classes remotely, so that's been a bit of a challenge. But also, they're going to be doing the high visibility enforcement for impaired driving, Thanksgiving,